Let's now downscale this figure. Press the plus key on the numeric keypad to duplicate this figure. Select the copied figure and click on the mirror horizontally icon. Hold Ctrl and move the copied figure down. Since the figures aren't overlapping, it doesn't matter whether we choose combine or delete. Just remember that these options aren't the same. They have the same effect in this one particular situation. Go to View menu and click on Normal. Select this figure and delete its outline. This figure is now ready. Press F3 twice to zoom out. Press F2 and select the area you want to zoom. Let's now create this figure again. This time, we won't just duplicate the figure. Create a rectangle and a circle. Select this rectangle, go to Arrange menu and click on Convert to Curves. Switch to the Shape tool, select all nodes and click on Add Nodes icon. Select these two nodes and move them to the right. Previously we've connected these two figures by creating a new figure with the Bezier tool. This time we'll just modify the rectangle figure and extend its path. Switch to Shape tool, go to View menu and click on Wireframe. Select this top middle node and drag it to the right. Add a node and move it to the right. We're doing the same thing as before, we're just applying a different approach. Keep working on the path until it goes all the way round the circle. It's best when this spike is placed under the middle point of the circle. Well, this element of the figure is now ready. Press F3 to zoom out. Select this figure and weld it. Switch to the Shape tool, select all nodes and then click on Convert to Curve icon. Zoom in on the figure. We won't move these two corresponding nodes. This way they will stay aligned. Select these two middle nodes and convert them to symmetrical nodes. We can now edit line segments on both sides of this node by dragging the direction line handles. The bottom of the figure is now ready. Let's move to the top part. First, add two buffer nodes and delete these nodes. Observe the shape of the path when you delete the nodes. When it looks good, keep on deleting the nodes. When something goes wrong, add a new node and edit the shape of the path. Let's now edit the outside path. Delete these two nodes. Add a new node here and move it down. Move these two nodes, then delete them. Select this node on the right and delete it. Now select the node connecting the line with the circle and also delete it. Move this node down and delete this one. So when we create a figure from the minimal amount of nodes, it'll look a lot smoother. Move this one. Don't move this one. It's a buffer node. Press Ctrl Z and zoom out. Select these two nodes and then move them to the right. Switch to the Pick tool. Downscale the figure and duplicate it. We can either use this copy and paste option or press the plus key on the numeric keypad to do this. Select the copied figure and mirror it horizontally. Hold Ctrl and move the copied figure down. Select both figures and click on the Combine icon. Now switch to Normal View and change the fill colour of the figure. Press F4. Well, actually, I meant Shift and F4. Pressing only F4 button will show all objects in a document. As you can see, I've found the missing copied green object. If you have the same object, select it and delete it. Well, I must have given a wrong value when we've been moving it. Let's go back to our project. Move the figure we've just created over the first rectangle. Let's now rotate this figure. Input 90 degrees in this section of the property bar and press Enter. Select the figure and downscale it a little. We'll now position this figure. There are two ways to do this. We can either input specific values or place the figure in one of the guidelines and move it down. Let's try the first technique now. Let's first change the y-axis position. Since the guideline position is 245 mm, the position of a new object should be the same. Change the y position of this figure to 245 mm. Let's now change the x-axis value. We need something that's easy to remember. Well, change it to 16 mm and press enter. Let's move it further. Change the x-axis position to 17 mm and press enter. We still need more. Change it to 18 mm and press enter. Now it's perfect. Let's move on. We'll now duplicate this figure and change the position of each copy. Duplicate this figure and change its position to 0 degrees. Click on the mirror vertically icon. Change the x-axis position to 5 mm. Because the margin is 10 mm, divided in half is 5 mm. Move this figure down by pressing the down arrow key. Let's now round the x-axis position to 230 mm. This way it'll be easier to position other copies. So these two figures will serve us as a base for the rest of the figures. Select only the top figure. Press the plus key on the numeric keypad or use the copy and paste options from the edit menu. I'm doing this so you can see what's going on. Let's now change the y-axis position of this copy. The bottom guideline position is 0 mm and the margin is 10 mm. Divide the margin in half and you get the y-axis position. Change the y position to 5 mm and press enter. Select this figure and click on mirror horizontally icon. Then press Shift and F4. Select the vertical figure. Here we need some more calculations. The position of the figure is 230 mm, which means that there's 20 mm gap between the end of this figure and the top of the guideline placed at 250 mm. Duplicate this figure. Use the copy and paste options from the edit menu, or just press the plus key on the numeric keypad. Change the y-axis position to 20 mm. It's because of the position of the bottom guideline is 0 mm. 0 plus 20 gives us the position of this figure. Press Shift and F4. Duplicate this figure, hold Ctrl and move it up. Thanks to holding Ctrl, the figure didn't change its X position. Let's change the Y-axis position. 250 divided in half is 125. Select this figure, change its Y-axis position to 125 and press Enter. So the next figure position is now set. The X position of the middle guideline is set to 105 mm. Select these three figures and press the plus key on the numeric keypad. We've just duplicated these three vertical figures. We now need to calculate their position. We have two guidelines, one placed at 105 and one at 95 mm. We want to place these copied figures between the two guidelines. Change their X-axis position to 100 and press Enter. Let's now mirror these figures vertically. Now we'll copy the top figure. Select this figure and look at its position. Its X position is 18 mm. We'll now use the same technique as before. We'll duplicate this figure and calculate a position for the copy. Press the plus key on the numeric keypad. As you can see, we've successfully copied the figure. 105 mm minus 18 is 87. So we now know the X position for this copied figure. Change its X-axis position to 87 mm and press Enter. Now make a copy of this figure and place it at the bottom of the document. It should be easy since the bottom guideline position is 0 mm. Duplicate this figure and change its Y position to 5 mm. Press Shift and F4 and zoom in on the bottom of the document. Select the copied figure and mirror. So all the figures are now placed accurately. Select the figures on the left, hold Shift and select the figures on the right. Let's now group them. This way all the figures will react as one element. Go to Arrange menu and click on Group. Duplicate this group and move it to the side. We'll now align this grouped figure with the second rectangle. Select the group, hold Shift and add the second rectangle to the selection. Go to Align and Distribute palette and align both objects vertically and horizontally. Since both figures are the same, the ornaments will fit perfectly this other side of our flyer. Although we haven't welded this rectangle with the circle, the ornament still fits each side perfectly. We'll now make these two elements. Create a new page. Now switch to page 2. We'll create these paths from several other paths. By combining them together, we'll get this nice decorative figure. Switch to the Bezier tool and create a triangle figure. Make sure that you close the path. We don't have to convert this path into curves, so we'll just switch to Shape tool. Select all nodes and click on Convert to Curve icon. Zoom in on the figure. Drag this line segment towards the centre of the figure. Now, move the bottom and the top line segments down. Let's fill this figure with red colour and delete the outline. Switch to Interactive Fill tool and draw a gradient direction line over the figure. Let's add another colour stop and change its colour to yellow. We'll now duplicate this figure. Well, before we do that, let's extend the gradient direction line. This way the figure will be more visible. Select the figure and press the plus key on the numeric keypad. Let's move this copied figure to see the effect. Press Ctrl and Z. Hold Ctrl and drag the middle left transformation point to the right. Select both figures. Press the plus key to duplicate them. Hold Ctrl and drag the bottom middle transformation point up. We now need to manually position the next elements. If we just duplicate this figure, hold Ctrl and rotate it, it won't fit. So we need to do it differently. Let's move the right figure to the side and delete it. Select this figure, duplicate it and rotate the copy. Select this figure and rotate it. Well, let's activate the Snap to Objects option. This way our work will be easier. Go to View menu, then Snap to and click on Snap to Objects. Move your cursor over this node and drag it down and place it over the corresponding node in the bottom figure. Duplicate this figure, mirror it and rotate it. Well, let's rotate this one and position it again. Made a mistake, just press Ctrl Z twice and try it again. Select this figure, move your cursor over the node and place it over the corresponding node of the bottom figure. In Corel, these actions require selecting the figure we want to move. In Illustrator, on the other hand, we just move the figure. Then it automatically snaps to the object. Switch to the Shape tool, select these two nodes and move them up. Work on this path. Change the position of the line segments and nodes to modify them. Select two nodes of the upper figure and move them down. Modify this path until it fits the overall composition. Of course, we can modify this path just by dragging the line segments. Move them away from the centre of the figure to make the space between them bigger. Select this upper part and drag this line segment to the left. Now duplicate these two objects and rotate them. Select them, press the plus key on the numeric keypad, hold Ctrl and drag the middle left transformation point to the right. Well, there's a bit of a hassle with this figure, but it pays off in the end. Right now we can change the look of the figure by just editing the gradient direction lines. Let's now copy this gradient to the figure on the other side. Go to Edit menu, click on Copy Properties From, click OK and select the figure. The figure is almost ready. We now need to merge it. Select all these figures and go to Arrange menu and click on Group. Remember that grouping won't destroy parts of our figure, so this decorative figure is now ready. Press Shift and F4, move this figure outside the page and switch to page 1. We can now move this figure over the rectangle. Each element that's placed outside the page will be available on all pages. Let's zoom in on this element. Rotate this figure and place it somewhere over the top right hand corner of the photo. Press Shift and F4 and switch to page 2. As you probably remember, we made a copy of one of the figures and left it for later. We'll now use it. Switch to the ellipse tool and draw a circle. Select this circle, duplicate it and move it to the left. The mesh gradient will block the circle, so we need to have some backup. Switch to Mesh Fill tool. As you can see, a net appeared on our figure. Let's add another point and move it to the left. Select this point and click on the colour. As you can see, the area around the selected point was filled with colour. Click on this section and 4 points will be selected. Let's set another colour for these points. Select these bottom 2 points and also change the colour. Now we can move each of the points and modify the effect. We can also delete existing points. Just click on a point and press delete. So that's how the Mesh Fill tool works. Play and experiment with the gradient. We can also change the shape of the base figure. Although it's possible, it's best if we create a base figure before applying a mesh effect to it. We can also move the whole section. Remember that when we do that, all points will be moved simultaneously. Press Ctrl and Z. Clicking twice adds a new point. You can also just move the line segments. All these actions will modify the gradient effect. So this is how we can create a nice gradient effect with the Mesh tool. So why have we copied this figure? Let's have a little experiment. Duplicate the red circle and place the copy over the gradient circle. Downscale it and try to weld these figures together. As you can see, the weld icon isn't active. This bigger circle is blocked by the Mesh Gradient tool. We can't completely remove the mesh effect from the figure. Duplicate the bigger circle and place the copy outside the page. Try to delete all points of the mesh. Although there are no points in this gradient net, the program still remembers that this figure is blocked by the Mesh Fill tool. Move the smaller circle over here and place it over the bigger circle. As you can see, we still can't weld these figures together. So how can we convert this object into a normal path? Let's try to do that through the Contour tool. As you can see, this tool also didn't work with this figure. So the best way is to just duplicate the shape before we use the Mesh Fill tool on it. But don't worry, there's a way to convert this figure back into a normal shape. Look at the property bar. The last icon here is called Clear Mesh. Click on it. The gradient effect disappeared. Let's see if we can now weld these two figures. Move the smaller circle here. Select both figures and weld them. So we need to carefully look at all options and always check the property bar contents. It's true not only the Mesh Fill tool, but for all CorelDraw tools.